What if I told you that one of the greatest business empires in American history was built by a guy who purposely showed up to a job interview looking like an absolute tramp?
Right? Like an actual stowaway?
Yeah, literally snuck into town in the baggage car of a freight train. I mean, he didn't have a resume. He didn't have a single dime to his name.
But he had one thing. He had this single obsessive thought.
Exactly. And that thought was enough to completely change his life. Welcome to today's deep dive, everyone. We are taking a really fascinating journey into one of the most legendary achievement manuals of all time.
Yeah, Napoleon Hill's 1937 classic, Think and Grow Rich.
Right. And our mission for you today is super clear. We are going to distill this, incredibly dense philosophy of wealth and success into its absolute most practical core.
We want to trace the exact roadmap for taking an invisible idea and making it physical.
Yeah, we're skipping all the fluff to give you a masterclass in personal achievement. Because, if you're prepping for a major career pivot or trying to launch a business, or you're just intensely curious about how titans of industry are made, this deep dive is custom tailored for you.
Absolutely. But I do think it's really important to ground this right away.
Oh, for sure.
Because when we start talking about thought shaping reality, it's very easy to sort of veer off into mysticism.
Yeah, like magic or something.
Right, but that isn't what this is at all. We are looking at a highly structured psychological framework. It was actually reverse engineered from the habits of historical leaders.
It's a systematic analysis, really. Success isn't about blind luck.
No, not at all. It's a structural process that literally anyone can learn.
But a process has to start somewhere, right? If we're building this roadmap for you, where does the very first line get drawn? Because I imagine it's not just, idly wishing for a nicer car.
Far from it. The starting point of all achievement, the absolute foundation, is what the text calls a burning desire.
A burning desire.
Yeah. A wish is passive, but a burning desire is an all-consuming obsession. And going back to the guy on the freight train you mentioned earlier.
Edwin C. Barnes.
Right, Barnes. His story is the perfect example of this. Because he didn't just want a job working for Thomas Edison.
Which would just be a wish.
Exactly.
Yeah.
His definite burning desire was to work with Edison as a business partner.
Even though he had zero leverage to make that happen. I mean, none.
Zero. He traveled to Edison's lab in New Jersey by blind baggage.
Which means he literally stowed away on a freight train because he couldn't afford a ticket.
Right. He arrives looking homeless. But the key is, when he stood in front of Edison, he didn't demand a partnership right then and there.
Oh, he took whatever he could get.
He accepted this menial minimum wage work in the factory just to get his foot in the door. And he just waited. For years. Yeah. And then finally, his moment arrived.
Yeah.
Edison had invented this new dictating machine. It was eventually called the Ediphone.
And Edison's own salesmen hated it, right?
They completely rejected it. They thought it would never sell. But Barnes, he saw his opening. He stepped up, said he could sell it, and he was so incredibly successful that Edison gave him a national distribution contract.
Which spawned that famous slogan, made by Edison and installed by Barnes?
Exactly. He became a multimillionaire, entirely because he just refused to let go of that initial thought.
That is wild to me. He literally willed a partnership with the greatest inventor in the world into existence.
Yeah, he did.
And, there's another story in this material that really struck me, and it's deeply personal to the author himself.
Oh, about his son, Blair.
Yes. His son was born without physical ears, and the doctors essentially told him, your son is going to be deaf and mute for his entire life.
And the father just completely rejected that medical verdict. He decided right then that his son would hear and speak.
But he didn't just keep that desire to himself, right?
No, he had to transfer it. So he engaged in this relentless, years-long psychological campaign. Every night, through bedtime stories, he planted this burning desire for normal hearing into his son's mind.
Which is amazing. He convinced the boy that his physical handicap was actually a massive asset.
Right. He told him teachers would give him special attention or he'd sell more newspapers because people would notice him.
And the craziest part of all this is that the psychological framing actually drove the physical outcome.
It really did.
Like, the boy figured out he could hear a Victrola playing music by biting the edge of the wooden case.
Yeah, using bone conduction to transmit the sound.
Exactly. And he relentlessly sought out ways to participate in the hearing world. Decades later, that drive led him to test an experimental hearing aid that practically gave him normal hearing.
And then he built an entire career helping millions of other deaf people.
It makes me think of, like, a magnifying glass.
Oh, how so?
Well, a mere wish is like scattered sunlight. You stand in it, it feels warm, but it doesn't change anything. But a burning desire is taking that magnifying glass and focusing those exact same rays onto one tiny spot until it bursts into flames.
That's a great analogy.
But I do have to push back a little here.
Sure.
Because how do we draw the line between a burning desire and just being stubbornly delusional? I mean, we all know people who desperately want to be like pop stars, but they have absolutely zero talent. It borders on delusion.
Right, I totally see that, but I'd actually reframe that entirely. The distinction between delusion and a true burning desire is what the text calls definiteness of purpose.
Okay, what does that mean in practice?
It's not just wanting some abstract outcome. It's burning all your bridges of retreat so that you are forced to act. If we look at it through modern psychology, it's basically the reticular activating system in your brain.
The RES.
Exactly. When you commit fully to a definite purpose, you reprogram your brain's filtering system. Suddenly, you recognize opportunities that a casual observer would just miss entirely.
Like Barnes seeing the Itaphone as a golden ticket when everyone else thought it was a dud.
Exactly. His definiteness of purpose allowed him to see the hidden path. Delusion lacks a path. Burning desire actually constructs one.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So, if my desire is the architectural blueprint and my brain is starting to look for opportunities, how do I hand that blueprint to the construction crew?
What do you mean?
Like, I've got this burning desire, I'm not delusional, but I'm still just sitting on my couch.
Right.
What's the actual mechanism that bridges the gap between my mind and physical reality?
Okay. The mechanisms that build that bridge are faith and autosuggestion. These are the specific tools you use to program your subconscious mind to act on the desire.
Right, translating the blueprint into a language the subconscious actually understands.
Precisely.
And the text lays out a very specific 6-step formula for this.
It does.
It's things like fixing the exact amount of money in your mind, determining precisely what you'll give in return, setting a hard date, building a definite plan.
Writing it all down.
Yeah, writing it down and then reading it aloud twice a day. But, anyone can write a list and read it. Why does this actually work?
The absolute linchpin of those steps is emotion. If you just read words off of paper like a robot, your subconscious mind is just going to completely ignore them.
So you have to feel it.
Yes. The subconscious only responds to thoughts that are heavily mixed with emotion. You have to visualize yourself already in possession of the goal.
So you feel the relief, the excitement.
Exactly. Which perfectly explains the story of how the United States Steel Corporation was created.
Oh, Charles M. Schwab.
Right. Schwab didn't just walk into a boardroom with a dry spreadsheet and ask for funding.
No, he was a young executive who saw this massive potential to consolidate the steel industry. But to do it, he had to convince J.P. Morgan.
The most powerful financier in America.
Exactly. And Schwab delivered this 90-minute speech at the University Club in New York, and the book describes it as, homely, but vibrating with passionate conviction.
Because he didn't just present numbers. He projected absolute, unwavering faith in this idea.
And it was infectious.
Totally infectious. It convinced Morgan to buy out Andrew Carnegie for roughly $400 million.
That is astronomical for that time.
Right. And that one idea, fueled by pure faith, generated a $600 million profit for the newly formed corporation.
It's incredible. The text even points to Mahatma Gandhi as a global example of this.
Yes.
He coalesced 200 million minds to fight for independence without a single dollar, without battleships, just pure shared belief.
It's the ultimate example of faith as a tangible force.
But, okay, bringing this back to the individual level, to autosuggestion, I think of it like training the algorithm on your social media feed.
Oh, that's interesting.
Right. Your subconscious is the algorithm. If you keep clicking on fear and doubt, the algorithm serves you more reasons to fail. And I have to ask, this isn't autosuggestion basically just lying to yourself, like fake it till you make it?
That is a super common friction point. People always ask that. But think about your algorithm analogy. An algorithm doesn't know if a video is true or false in a moral sense.
Right. It only knows engagement.
Exactly. The subconscious mind is described here as a neutral chemical laboratory. It makes no moral judgments. It just acts on whatever material is fed to it most consistently.
Especially with strong emotion.
Yes. So, tricking the subconscious by visualizing the goal isn't a lie. It's providing a clear target for your mind's targeting system to lock onto.
Okay, so my internal algorithm is trained. My subconscious is actively looking for solutions. But positive thinking alone doesn't build a factory.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't write code. I need raw materials to actually execute the plan.
Exactly. And those raw materials are specialized knowledge and imagination.
Specialized knowledge.
Yeah. And a lot of people get trapped here because they misunderstand what knowledge is. The material makes a really stark distinction between general knowledge, like what you learn at a university, and specialized knowledge.
Right, because general knowledge, no matter how vast, doesn't actually attract money.
Knowledge is only potential power. It only becomes actual power when it's highly organized into definite plans of action.
Which brings up that fantastic historical anecdote about Henry Ford.
Oh, the witness stand story.
Yes. Ford was on the witness stand in a libel suit, and the opposing lawyers were trying to humiliate him.
They wanted to prove he was just an ignorant pacifist.
Exactly. So they start peppering him with these trivial historical questions like, how many British troops were sent to America in 1776?
And Ford just gets exhausted by it.
He leans over and essentially says, look, I have a row of push buttons on my desk. If I push the right button, I can summon an expert who can answer any question you throw at me. Why should I clutter my mind with general knowledge when I have men who can supply it?
It's a brilliant defense. Ford was educated not because he memorized facts, but because he knew how to organize specialized knowledge.
Right. It's like a modern computer operating system. You don't need to store every file natively on your desktop. You just need a really good search function.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
But here's the multi-million-dollar question. If specialized knowledge is the key, and today we have the internet where all knowledge is free, why are so many smart, educated people still broke?
Because education without imagination is completely stagnant.
Interesting.
It's the difference between a warehouse and a factory. A warehouse holds raw materials, but it doesn't build anything. The magic ingredient is imagination.
And the author divides this into two types, right?
Yes. Creative imagination, which is where sudden flashes of inspiration come from.
Yeah.
And synthetic imagination, which is much more common.
Synthetic imagination.
Yeah, it doesn't create out of thin air. It takes old concepts and specialized knowledge and rearranges them into new combinations. That's how most massive wealth is built.
Like the story of the enchanted kettle.
Oh, the ultimate proof of synthetic imagination.
Right. You have this old country doctor who wants to retire, so he sells a brass kettle, a wooden paddle, and a secret formula on a scrap of paper for $500.
To a young drug clerk named Asa Candler.
Exactly. The doctor was just thrilled to pay off his debts. But Candler took that formula and added one vital ingredient, his own imagination.
He didn't invent the formula.
No. He just imagined a completely new way to market, distribute, and scale it. And he turned that $500 purchase into the global empire of Coca-Cola.
It's incredible. And we see the exact same principle outside of business, too, like with Dr. Frank Gonzalez.
Who was he again?
He was a clergyman who desperately needed $1 million to build a new kind of practical college. He spent 2 years just hoping for it.
Just wishing.
Right, getting nowhere. Finally, he made a definite decision to get it within a week. He applied his imagination and preached a highly publicized sermon called What I Would Do If I Had $1 Million.
So he vividly outlined a specific plan.
Exactly. And Philip T. Armour, the enormously wealthy meatpacker, happened to be in the audience.
Yeah.
He was so moved by the organized plan that he walked up after the sermon and literally handed him the $1 million.
Wow.
Yeah, that idea became the Armour Institute of Technology.
Okay, so let's recap for everyone listening. We have desire, we have faith, we've gathered specialized knowledge, and we've sparked it with imagination.
Yeah.
But an idea fueled by imagination is beautiful, but without execution, it's just a daydream. How does the rubber actually meet the road?
The final step is crystallizing everything into physical action through organized planning and unyielding persistence.
Okay.
And the first rule of organized planning is that no one can execute a massive vision entirely alone. This introduces the concept of the mastermind alliance.
I've heard that term thrown around a lot in modern business circles. How does this specific material define it?
It defines a mastermind as the coordination of knowledge and effort between two or more people working toward a definite purpose in perfect harmony.
Perfect harmony.
Yeah. The premise is that no two minds ever come together without creating a third, invisible, intangible force, a collective intelligence.
So you surround yourself with people who have the skills you lack.
You compensate them fairly, and you maintain absolute harmony. Because without a mastermind, accumulating great power is nearly impossible.
Because your individual perspective is always limited.
Exactly.
But, even with a great team and a solid plan, things are going to go wrong. You're going to hit a wall.
Inevitably. And this is where persistence becomes the deciding factor. The text highlights the massive danger of quitting too soon.
Like the story of R.U. Darby.
Yes. During the gold rush, Darby's uncle went west, claimed land, and actually struck a vein of gold ore.
Which is huge.
Right. He quietly covered it up, went back to Maryland to raise money for machinery, and then he and Darby went back to mine it. At first, it was incredible, high-grade ore. But then the vein completely vanished.
Just disappeared.
They drilled and drilled, desperately trying to pick it up again, but found nothing. Finally, exhausted and defeated, they quit. They sold all their expensive machinery to a local junkman for a few $100s.
And took the train home in disgrace. But the junkman didn't just scrap the machines, right?
No, he was smart. He called in a mining engineer. The engineer did some specialized calculating and realized the uncle had failed because he didn't understand fault lines.
Oh, no.
The engineer advised the junkman to keep digging just a little bit further. And the junkman found the lost vein of gold exactly 3 feet from where the uncle had stopped drilling.
Millions of dollars in gold just 3 feet away. It physically hurts to think about.
It really does. But it perfectly illustrates that defeat is almost always temporary. Quitting makes it permanent.
And Darby actually learned from that, didn't he?
He did. He later became a highly successful life insurance salesman because he constantly reminded himself that he had once stopped 3 feet from gold. He just refused to stop pitching when clients told him no.
It's interesting, too, because Darby actually witnessed a masterclass in persistence when he was just a kid on his uncle's farm.
Oh, the story with the little girl.
Yeah. He watched his fierce-tempered uncle get completely backed down by a little girl. She was the daughter of a tenant farmer, and she was sent to the mill to collect 50 cents her mother was owed.
And the uncle was terrifying, right?
Yeah, he yelled at her to leave. He even picked up a barrel stave and marched toward her to physically intimidate her. But the little girl didn't run.
She held her ground.
She stepped forward, looked him dead in the eye, and screamed at the top of her lungs, "My mammy's got to have that 50 cents.
Wow.
And the uncle was just so stunned by her absolute defiance, her utter refusal to be denied, that he dropped the weapon and paid her. She had a definite purpose, and she refused to accept defeat.
That unwavering persistence is required not just in gold mining, but in the modern application of marketing your own personal services.
Right.
For most people, selling their personal services is the starting point of wealth. And there's a phenomenal case study in the material about a mother who applied these exact principles to help her son secure a high-level executive position right out of college.
Yes, I love this example. Because she didn't just have him blast out a generic resume to 100 companies. She treated his job hunt like a major corporate acquisition.
She did the intense upfront work.
Exactly. She spent weeks analyzing the prospective employer's competitors, their market share, their internal problems. Then she created a 50-page personal service sales plan.
A fully bound brief.
Yeah, detailing exactly what her son would do to solve the company's specific problems. She focused entirely on what he could give the employer, rather than going in begging for a job. And he bypassed entry level completely and was hired as an executive.
It's brilliant.
But, I have to say, making a 50-page brief for a job interview sounds like an insane amount of upfront work. For the average listener, isn't it just easier to take an entry-level job, start at the bottom, and work your way up?
It might seem easier initially, but the material makes a counterintuitive argument against that. The view from the bottom is dreary. It's psychologically damaging.
Because you're stuck in the grind.
Exactly. You get forced into a rut of daily routine, and you quickly lose the habit of looking for bigger opportunities. Doing the hard work of organized planning up front allows you to bypass that rut. You start higher up, where you're actually visible to the people who control true opportunity.
The text also touches on a broader shift in how these plans are executed, specifically regarding leadership. It points out that leadership by force, the old school dictatorial boss, is a dying model.
Yes. And it's important to note the author frames this just as an inevitable historical evolution. Impartially speaking, the text observes that old systems, whether industrial monopolies or political machines, inevitably collapse when they rely on force and fear.
Because the public eventually rejects autocratic control.
Precisely. The leaders who will build the fortunes of the future are those who utilize leadership by consent, based on sympathy, cooperation, and assuming full responsibility for their mastermind group.
Okay, we have covered some incredibly deep ground today, so let's loop this all back to you, the listener. If you tuned in today to prepare for a crucial meeting or catch up on your field or you're plotting a career change, remember this specific structural formula.
Anchor your goal in a burning desire.
Yes. burn your bridges of retreat. Program your internal algorithm with absolute faith. Acquire the specialized knowledge you need, or build a mastermind group that has it. Apply your imagination to rearrange that knowledge and execute it with a highly organized plan.
And remember, it's okay to experience temporary defeat. It just means your plan needs rebuilding. But it is never okay to quit 3 feet from gold.
Never.
And if we step back and look at the philosophical core of everything we've discussed today, there is a lingering concept presented in the material that is truly profound.
Oh, what's that?
The author suggests that the ether of the universe, the very space around us, is filled with cosmic forces that literally adapt themselves to the nature of our dominating thoughts.
Wow.
If thoughts are actual measurable forms of energy, just like physical matter, it implies we are in a constant state of attraction, which raises a vital question for you to ponder long after this audio ends.
I love this.
If your thoughts are physical magnets, what is the current energy of your mind attracting to you right at this exact second? Are your dominating thoughts broadcasting fear and limitation, or are you broadcasting the inevitable reality of your success?
That is a wild, incredible thing to think about. Your mind is the drafting table for your reality, and you are the one holding the pen. So take your very next thought, guard it carefully, and go out there and build something incredible. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.